We want to welcome everyone to this public meeting, or the meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on an item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You'll have 5 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward to the podium at the time and you will be recognized. For accurate recording purposes, we ask all to speak directly into the microphone. Call to order and roll call.
Roll call. Bryant.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Maddox. Walker.
Here.
Heck.
Here. Item number 2, approval of standing committee minutes for
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. We have Bill Heatherman here for the Public Works and update on some of their projects.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I'm also here for one of the blue sheet items, so we can do the presentation first and then the blue sheet if you
Okay?
like. The presentation tonight is just a little snapshot of several of our recently completed construction projects. And I believe the suggestion was made, and we think it's a great idea, is to come frequently to give you a little idea of what we've been working on, especially the projects that are completed. So this is by no means a comprehensive list. It's just 5 projects that we wanted to share with you, and we can take any questions that you may have. This is a list of the 5 projects. Each of these has been completed in the last year, some very recently, some about a year ago. And we'll just take you through those. So State Avenue, 83rd to 94th Street. This was the federal aid assisted part. This was a Mid-America Regional Council grant project from an award about 2010. And it continued on the spirit of what we had done to the east. So it's all completed now. We fixed a pavement and drainage issue that was brought to our attention. We put in the landscaping scheme, and we actually changed it up. There's a lot more colors of plants in this realm, and new lighting, including the LED lighting that we've been working on with BPU as a pilot effort. So, so far so good. It's got the wide sidewalk on the north side that continues. You can go all the way from the college now to 94th Street with that wide sidewalk, and if you've been by there, you know we have another project across the street that's going to get us closer to 98th Street with that same thing. 51st and Kimball, this is a storm drainage project, culvert kind of crisscrossed catty corner under a street, so it was a little challenging to keep the streets open while we replaced the old culvert that was there with the new one, and then did a lot of restoration, resodded, put the big inlets in, and buttoned it back up pretty nicely. We got that project done late last year. This is an aerial sewer crossing, you know, when you need to kind of keep the gravity flow of our sanitary sewers somewhat even and you get to a creek. We don't love doing this, but sometimes you really have no choice but to keep that line up in the air. And we were having problems with the previous aerial. We were concerned about breakage and contamination in the creek. Think about this project, you can't quite see it yet. Well, the point was made, we spent a lot of money and nobody can see it. And on our sewer work, that's kind of the point. We don't really want it to be that visible. But in order to make sure this stayed protected from the elements, we used a fancy stream management plan. We threw a big word geomorphology in there. Basically, we designed this to fit with how Mother Nature wants streams to behave. So instead of a lot of really heavy rock armoring all the bends, the way this whole stream is laid out is intended towards letting the vegetation keep it stabilized and keep it much more natural than it was even before. So this is one of our first kind of new age projects, if you will, with our sanitary sewers in the streams. Next is 42nd Street, Metropolitan Avenue. This was a reconstruction, provided the sidewalks, cleaned up a lot of storm drainage, sanitary sewers, and miscellaneous items, and really, I think, gave it quite a fresh look. And then we're doing also heavy maintenance. CLINK is a cost share program with the state of Kansas on those routes that are also state routes. And it's a very heavy reconstruction in place of westbound Kansas Avenue lanes between 34th and 43rd in our industrial areas. So that's just a snapshot, 5 projects that we wanted to bring tonight, and we'll keep bringing you more. but I would take any questions you might have.
I just have a comment. I really do appreciate State Avenue. It looks really wonderful. I drive it all the time, and I get a lot of comments and compliments on that. The other thing is that the job you did up on 51st Street is phenomenal. That was such a mess. You guys did such a good job up there that it really looks great, and everybody seems to be really happy around that. Thank you.
Do you have a semi-time frame for when Kansas Avenue project should be complete?
You know, I'm not sure off the hat. It's not a big project. It'll be wrapping up here in a month, I'm sure.
Okay, before winter?
Yes.
Thank you.
I asked staff to present this to us, and the reason being is a lot of people say, when are my roads getting fixed? And it's, well, we're over here working, we're over there working. Well, we work nonstop. And there's a schedule of when things are to get done, and not everyone seems to think that they get done as fast as they could. But we appreciate your work and we appreciate the update. Now we go to you're here for the public agenda?
No, there's a blue sheet item regarding Metropolitan and 24th Street
Okay.
right before that item.
Okay.
Basically, we're rebuilding the intersection at 24th Street and Metropolitan, paid for in part through the La Plaza Argentine Economic Development Funds. We're at that normal part in a project where we need to finish securing the right-of-way. We have one property owner. We actually hope to negotiate a conclusion. We just need a little strip of easement off the gas station that's on the south side of the road there. But in accordance with our normal procedures, this resolution is what's necessary in order to allow us to go through condemnation if that became necessary. And so we just ask for approval.
Second.
There's been a roll call on the question, please.
Roll call, Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Barkley. Aye. Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to the public agenda. Item number 1, appearance by Robert Ferguson.
Good evening. My name is Robert Ferguson. I'm a lifelong resident of Wyandotte County, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the open burning limitations that we have in the county. And I have 3 acres of land that's roughly heavily wooded, and my son owns another 3 acres nearby that's the same. There's also 8 acres of land that I take care of for absentee owners. And so the twice yearly burning, once a month, I accumulate huge amounts of brush and leaves and that sort of thing. Several months ago, I talked to Miss Margia, my city councilwoman, about the idea of allowing open burning the first 5 days of the month instead of 2 30-day periods. It would be the same 60 days, but it would be spread over a year. And she told me that she knew there would be some concerns with the EPA and the KSHD regarding this, so she gave me the phone numbers of a gentleman by the name of Josh Tapp and Tom Gross with the state group. I talked to both of these gentlemen, and they were opposed to the idea of burning throughout the year, particularly during the summer months, because of the ozone situation. I can understand that and appreciate it. I have asthma. I have 2 grandchildren with asthma, so I know what they're trying to do. But that doesn't solve my problem with the burning. Fortunately, Mr. Gross put me in touch with Mr. Bruce Armstrong with your health department, who's in charge of the ozone pollution here. And Mr. Armstrong explained to me that I could get special burning permits anytime during the course of the year, provided the temperatures were under 85 degrees and the ozone levels were low. So that solves my problem. I would still like to see some way that it could be spread over the entire year. But quite frankly, given the environmental and ozone concerns, I don't see a way to do that. My problem's solved. I'll leave the problem of the fact that it would probably be helpful to the community to spread this over a longer period to you, although I have to tell you quite honestly, I don't see a way for you to do it. Mr. Armstrong has been kind enough to come here tonight, and he told me that he would be happy to answer any questions you might have regarding this.
I have, okay.
Angela and you, Hal.
One thing for the record, that's Anderson, not Armstrong. Close.
I'm sorry, I got your name wrong.
So there's, yeah, Bob and I talked last week about a possible solution to his problem. And rather than open up the burning regulation and make some changes, which could be a can of worms, you know, I think I have some flexibility under the ordinance to grant special burn permits, either when they're agricultural or in the public interest. And since he's managing so much acreage out there, I think that I can, you know, work it out with him to issue special burn permits to clean up, as long as they fit with, you know, our criteria, and we don't do it when the pollution levels are high or look like they're predicted to be high.
I was just going to comment that, you know, this is an issue, particularly like in our Morris areas, our more rural areas. They do have a lot of acreage, and I agree with Mr. Ferguson. I only have 1 acre, but still that brush piles up very quickly if you have a lot of trees. So there does come a point where you're looking at either the public nuisance of burning it or the public nuisance of having this big pile of wood. So I appreciate you being here and your idea for trying to resolve the issue without maybe opening the can of worms, and hopefully it's hopefully our residents know that there are burn periods they can take advantage of, and that they are aware of the programs that we do have available.
Commissioner Walker.
I, on an annual basis, am fortunate in one respect that I have a truck and can drive debris out to Deffenbaugh's dump site for vegetation. That's not a situation most people, or a lot of people, don't have. I don't think our timing of burning is correct either. I got a lot of oak trees in my neighborhood, and I don't get enough. It depends on the season and the weather, of course, but a typical year, the oak trees have not dropped a significant number of their leaves by the end of the deadline in winter. And you know, I would agree with Mr. Ferguson. I think there are opportunities to permit burning at different times in the year. Perhaps it's just 1 weekend a month. I mean, we take our hazardous waste 1 weekend a month for what, 8 months, 7 months, 8 months a year. And that is so. I'm assuming Deffenbaugh does something responsible with it and just doesn't pick it up and dump it in the dump. But we don't need to be putting it in bags and putting it out on the curb and putting it into the landfill. I think we need to look at it and perhaps adjust the dates when burning is permitted to capture more of the waste. October 15th in a typical year, you haven't got anything except what you picked up during the summer. The leaves are turning, maybe some of the early trees have fallen, but it doesn't correspond very well with nature, at least in the fall. So I would not be opposed to taking a critical look at it. And then, Mr. Anderson, I would like to see the criteria being, in the past, I was under the impression through a couple of incidents that we had back in the day when I was in the legal department, where they had to set up burn curtains, and you know, it was not an easy process to get that permit and comply with the criteria that you reference.
The air curtain destructors that you're referring to were primarily for commercial type situations where there
These
would
were
be,
commercial.
yeah, be land clearing for development, where they'd have just a tremendous volume of trees. That's where we would.
So an individual like me, if I had a sufficient, I mean, alls I do is burn mine in an old style barrel,
Yeah, you would not need an air curtain destructor.
and, you know, it poses very little risk with a hose and you know, the amount of debris, but it can be a number of barrelfuls before I burn it all. So, you know, it's not as big a priority, I suppose, as other issues that we are dealing with, but it certainly, we don't, I'm really, I really do not think that we allow burning in the fall when we need to allow burning. And that's my comment.
You know, we have the flexibility to move those dates as far as, and that's what Dennis did before, and I'm sure Doug will do the same thing. If it's too wet or whatever, we can expand that. But
Well, I think on an annual basis, it should at least go to December 1st. Oak trees hold them even into January a lot of years, but obviously you can't, I mean, there's a lot of other debris that accumulates, but October 15th to November 15th, you don't capture all of the debris that's coming down. And then if we have Indian summer, which it doesn't look like we're gonna have, we're gonna have a lot of leaves on the trees to be raked up and bagged before, or mulched and done something with. So, okay, I'm done.
Okay, Mr. Connors, can you please take that back to Administrator Bach and tell him we'd like to modify some of those days?
Or look at it anyway.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? I believe that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, and thanks for bringing it up, because one, I didn't know that we had special permits
I
to
didn't
do
either.
that. So that gives us, the next time somebody says something to us, well, we have Mr. Anderson to go to. So we appreciate the fact that you brought it up, because I didn't know where this was gonna go. And now we all have better information than we did in the first place. So thank you very much. That concludes my meeting, although we're going to take a 4 or 5 minute break for the other commissioners.
We want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda? Hey, Mayor. Anyone wishing to, oh, I said Public Works and Safety. It was Administration and Human Services. I'm just reading the other script. Anyone wishing to speak on any item may do so. When the item is up for discussion, you will have 5 minutes. Please come forward to the podium. For accurate recording purposes, we ask all present to speak into the microphone. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Maddox. Walker.
Here.
Markley.
Here. I need approval of the standing committee
Move
minutes.
for approval.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries, and we are on to our committee agenda. Item number 1 is a grant for healthy community.
Yes, that's me.
Welcome.
Pretty sure. Yes. Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry, I had to run from another meeting at the Med Center, so. My name is Wesley McCain. I'm the coordinator for Healthy Communities Wyandotte. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the commissioners tonight. Thank you. We have a couple of items up, a couple grants that we have written recently. One of them, the first one, is the Centers for Disease Control grant for a request for $160,000. The Centers for Disease Control are like the big players on the block when it comes to health funding, and they dropped a bunch of grant requests like bombs on everyone in the nation. And they are large. This was an opportunity up to $3 million per year for 3 years. Thankfully, the Mid-America Regional Council started an initiative, a metro-wide initiative to pull together all of the local health departments to come together to work on a lot of the stuff that Healthy Communities Wyandotte is already working on. Access to healthy food, increasing physical activity, working with chronic disease management like diabetes. And then there's a new one, which we haven't really worked on a lot before, and that's smoking. And they wanted to take on smoking. And so that's an element of it as well. And we worked with them for over a month. Those were difficult meetings, very long, but put together a $2.2 million request per year. And the health department asked for $160,000 of that to do the activities that I just said. There's no cash match. There is some in-kind staffing for me and the second person in the office. This would effectively double our staff for the next 3 years, and so we're very excited about the opportunity. I will say these national grants are very competitive, and so we're not planning on getting it. We're hopeful that we're going to get it, but we're not planning on it. So.
Questions on the first item?
So either we get it as a group through Mark, or nobody gets it in this bunch. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying? 'Cause
exactly.
Okay. Just wanted to know, but Mark does a pretty good job of their requests, so I can understand why we would be part of that. So thank you for jumping in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. And item number 2, I assume you're presenting as well.
Yeah, I think so.
The Take Charge of Your Health grant.
Yes, and this is a little bit closer to home. This is just Wyandotte County. We're really excited about this. Our Enroll Wyandotte initiative, which was a partnership with a lot of different agencies in Wyandotte County to help enroll people through all of the new affordable health insurance plans with Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act has a lot of names, but there's a lot of uninsured people in Wyandotte County who could now get health insurance at a reasonable rate. And so we wanted to organize as many people who had an interest in that as possible. We enrolled about 900 applications, so we actually don't know how many people that was. We tracked applications, and turns out people enroll their families, and so we're not sure, but it was over 900 people in that. And we found out that those people, a lot of them did not know how to use health insurance because it's complicated. And that was a problem across the country. And so this was a grant that we did in partnership with the YMCA and the Health Council to have a follow-up with them, where when they were enrolled in health insurance, we would help them to, we have some basic health insurance literacy that is involved in that. So we're going to be adding some staff, hopefully, if we get this grant, to help people understand what in-network, out-of-network, how to navigate the health insurance system. A lot of people don't know what a copayment is. They have no idea, and then they go there and they think it's a scam because the doctor's asking them for money and they've already paid for health insurance. So educating people with that. And then we also have a partnership with the YMCA. We have a very high rate of diabetes in Wyandotte County. And so the YMCA is going to put in for about 85 or 90,000 of that to help people who get enrolled, get connected to their weight management and diabetes prevention programs. So we're very excited. No cash match, a smaller amount of in-kind from me because a lot of the money is going to be pushed out to our partners on this one. But I will be, if we get the grant, I'll be working probably, I think 10% of mine is on this.
Questions on the Take Charge grant?
I'm sure it's somewhere in here, but I missed it when I read through. How do we have the names of the people then that did sign up and that were granted? So we follow through on those? Is that how that happens? Or is this just an outreach and we hope they come to us?
We will be hopefully capturing, that's maybe the wrong word, but
No, that
getting,
works.
getting them when they come to enroll. And we'd like, without making it seem mandatory, because it really isn't mandatory, to bill it as a first appointment. Like, here's your first appointment. We're going to educate you about health insurance, about the health system, and also we're going to do some screenings. So to see, we're going to have nurses there just like check their blood pressure, do a pre-diabetes test and things, and then hopefully the YMCA will be there to like route them to those programs. That was a hard thing the first time because there's some privacy issues that we will have to navigate, but we have forms and things, and so we're hopefully going to be able to do that.
Thank you. I'm glad you managed to work through that part of it because that can be really difficult.
Yes, yeah.
The
it
HIPAA
can.
laws.
Yep.
Other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And
thank
it
you.
looks like you might have had a question, so if you would be willing to step back into the public area.
He'll come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. Do you want the next one? Yeah. sure.
What question do you want, to us or to him?
Good evening. I don't know how this works. This is my first meeting, but yes, I did
If
have
you
a
could
question in regards
give
to
your
this one.
name.
Sure. I'm Dr. Tammy Counts. I live at 824 State Avenue and longtime member of the Wyandotte County area. So I did have a question about this.
Okay, and is it something you think we can answer, or would you rather just ask him
Don't let him
directly?
go, Joe.
Well, it's just an overall question that I have in regards to this. My understanding, this is a partnership with the YMCA, and there's going to be discussion and information shared about the Affordable Care Act with the community. And the reason why I'm asking that is I'm no longer an employee, so I would be a person in this community looking for affordable
Yeah, Wesley. would
health
you?
care.
Yes, we will be sharing information about
Good
it.
job.
And we would be very happy to talk to you about the new health insurance options. The open enrollment period starts on November the 15th and is going to go until February the 15th this year. And there's a couple, if you have recently lost a job or if you've been married or if you've adopted a child, there's a couple of things that can make you do it now. So afterward, I'd be happy to talk to you. Yeah, and I'm a licensed, certified application counselor myself. So
Okay. And I just saw that this was in partnership with the YMCA And because I'm no longer employed, I am no longer a member of the YMCA, so I was just wanting to know how that relationship was going to be. If you're
Oh,
not a
yes.
member of that, and how I would have access to this information and their healthy activities.
Yeah, it's not a membership program. People who we assist through the health insurance enrollment process, and this is if we get this grant, because we haven't gotten these funds yet, but if we get this grant, then there are some discounted rates for the YMCA programs through this, but it's not like a general YMCA membership. It's more, they have certain classes, like they have a Y weight class where you go, and there's exercise components of it, but I don't think it provides like a general membership for it. But
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Hey, Wesley, when we find out whether we got the grant, can we put this on our website?
Yes.
And then if somebody wants to call and ask questions, you know, I think just like that what the lady just asked right there is, you know, how are we gonna know? So I think we need to let people know if we get it, put it on a website, when we're gonna have the meeting, blah, blah, blah. And if there's any questions, leave a phone number for somebody to call.
Yeah, I think the Enroll Wyandotte folks have been working on this coming enrollment period since the last one ended. So
Okay.
I fully expect this component, when any other component, will be fully advertised everywhere.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thanks again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're moving on to item number 3. Jody Bodine and Joe Connor have dutifully done some research for us on boards and commissions. As you may recall, those of you who are sitting up here and for our public, we had a special session where we talked about the boards and commissions process and how confusing it can be for commissioners and how we may not be appointing to some of the vacancies that we should be appointing to, and we were referred to that matter as this committee. So we're going to look at this research tonight, and we have been asked to come back with any recommendations for changes in that process.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I have with me tonight Jody Boding, Chief Legal Counsel, and Bridget Cobbins. Bridget is our clerk. I want to thank both of them for their work, as well as Emmerich Cross, Janet Guilfoyle, and Carol Godsell. This has become quite a project, and it's a good project. It just needs to be kind of reorganized and redone, and I think we want to provide you with a product and a process that we can all be proud of, and I think we're on the way to doing that tonight. So just to kind of recap some of the things we talked about at the last meeting, we have general provisions in our UG code. I won't go through all of those, but these are things that generally cut across all of the boards and commissions that the UG, the
Joe, could you
commissioners-
put the microphone right in front of you?
Sure. These are the general provisions that are in, you know, for the commissioners that use to appoint. They're generally kind of cross-cutting provisions. The next slide is, we're building on what we presented last time. So you see around the red boxes around those columns, those are information that we've added to the spreadsheet from last time. This first slide is boards and committees that are required by Kansas statute. And that you do notice that we've got agencies and departments that are responsible for those particular boards and commissions. That was one of the things that was asked for. We've also added the frequency, and when they met last, and who they're appointed by. So we're starting to build a pretty good list of, a summary list of what we have. The next one are boards by ordinance. Again, this is by city ordinance. Same kind of information that we've updated. If there's a gap, it's either doesn't exist or we're still working on it. But you can see most of the information has been filled in. Then boards and committees by resolution, and these are more of on the resolution on the county side. And another list there on ordinance and resolution. And then we've got some that are on the charter ordinance and resolution. That's the park board. And then we get into boards and committees that are named, or either named officials or mayoral appointees. Same list there. Again, just more information on that. Again, that's kind of the last list from last time. So, again, we're just trying to update this list, make it comprehensive, make sure and catch everything. We have found a lot of things that are just we didn't even think about, or that we've kind of come across when we're reviewing the ordinances, and so it has turned into quite a bit of work, but it's really good work to do. So I want to get into now, as a part of your attachment, we've kind of put a guide together. It was in your agenda packet. And we want to try to restructure on the boards and committees different roles and responsibilities. And the first one was to talk about the role of the commission liaison. We know that person right now tries to address all of your needs and concerns, and we'd like to see that role expanded to include being your main point of contact for boards and committees. So we think the liaison would do a good job of maintaining the list of all boards and commission positions, which contains the requirements and terms, so you'll know what's out there. Examine and report on alternatives to the current appointment process. Again, I think that's information you need to have and need to be updated on an ongoing basis. And then examine and report on other reforms to the appointment process, which may include the consolidation of appointments. So as we start to review this in more detail, and as years go on, the commission liaison could be the person to, if you guys have questions about why are we doing this, why is this happening, and can we change it, that would be your first point of contact to make that happen. One of the other things that was talked about at the last meeting was define the appointment terms and process for filling vacancies. We're recommending to standardize the start date to begin on June 1st in odd-numbered years. That would coincide with the election cycle. That would require ordinance changes kind of throughout throughout each particular one. So it's nothing we can kind of wave a magic wand over and make change. We want to move in that direction and get to that point, if you guys so desire.
I have a question real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
So how do you feel about that on having to go through and changing all those dates? Is it going to be a big thing, or how extensive
I
does
don't
that
think-
look?
It might take a couple of months, just given the other business that we have, but
Just
shouldn't take
fitting
longer
it
than
in,
that.
okay, so it's not going to be really extensive then? Okay, I just wanted to ask, because I know we're asking a lot of everybody for the last year, and haven't quit yet, so I'm just wanting to know. Thank you.
Sure. The other recommendation that we have is that appointees whose terms have expired will continue to serve until a new appointment is made. So let's say if the June 1st date comes around and you just haven't been able to find someone to keep a quorum and keep the committees full, that person will remain until an appointment can be made. And then the same term would apply, would still go back to June the 1st. The one question that I think we heard from the committee last month, was appointees whose terms have not expired, do they continue to serve when the commissioner changes office? So for example, this spring, if we have a new commissioner, but there's a person that still has 2 years left on their term, is that an automatic, you fill that spot, or do you wait till their term expires? Again, based on last time, we heard a little bit of both, and we weren't sure. That's still a question that we're looking to plan for. Jody, go.
I was going to say that.
I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, if I don't know how to respond to this. If the commissioner chooses those people have committed to us for 4 years, and if the commissioner who gets elected in 2 years wants to remove them, I think it would be a easier thing and a cleaner way. Because when a commissioner, well, for a couple of reasons. One, when a commissioner first comes in, there's so much that they're trying to absorb that throwing the change of the committees on there, might be a little bit difficult, but I would not want to see that part change.
So you would, just to clarify, you would be in favor of having them serve out their
Yes,
term?
yes.
I would agree with Commissioner Kane. With one or two exceptions, these people that have stepped up and agreed to serve are doing so without compensation. They're giving their time. And just because elections have changed the personnel, I mean, when you really get down to it, there's just not a lot of political work in these boards. I'm not in favor of, I'm just another one, but somebody agrees to serve 4, he serves 4, and the commissioner gets the opportunity at a point to appoint someone for 4 years who they would like to have serve 4 years. And if they don't get reelected, then, or choose not to run, I don't see why all the people should, well, okay. I never, the whole idea in the beginning, when that was done, and I can tell you because I had a hand in writing that at that time, was to depoliticize these boards a little bit, Most of these boards, you're lucky to find someone who agrees to serve, and then to throw them off just because of an election outcome, I mean, come on.
So can I throw a slight wrench in that? So there are a couple of boards that traditionally have been fairly political, let's just be honest, that have traditionally rolled over with the commissioner, which includes our planning and zoning appointments and our park and rec appointments. So are we okay with those being treated in the same way? Which means that if someone were to drop, they could still potentially be appointed at the time of the new election just because their terms could line up with that, their 4-year terms. But if someone dropped off early and then someone new came in and was filling a term, I don't know how that would work. I'm not sure if it's going to have the impact that we think it's going to have on all of those boards.
Well, you only appoint someone to fill an unexpired term if someone quits.
But if they're all 4-year terms, then we wouldn't have to have this discussion, would we?
Well, they are all 4-year terms, aren't they?
I guess.
Commission appointments are.
Unless there are a couple of boards that their legislation says to, but for the
Area
vast
aging.
majority, it's 4.
Area agency on aging is 2 years, limited to 4 years altogether.
I
And there-
can't tell you from
I
memory
guess-
which ones they are, I'm sorry.
And one other one, and I forget which other one it was.
But I think elections would part of the, could be part of the issue. But the other issue is just any change in the commission, so a resignation or how do you handle appointees after that? I mean,
Yeah, I guess that was
that's-
gonna be my question, is when is this potentially gonna come up? Because if most of these are 4-year terms and they're at the beginning lined up with the commissioner's term, and we're only gonna appoint for unexpired terms, we're not gonna appoint for another 4 years in the middle, it seems like this issue wouldn't arise very frequently.
Something else about this. On each one of these boards or commissions, are there regulations about how active you have to be before you're dropped? As, because you could name somebody to that board or commission and they're not being active. What does it say? 3?
Can
Sorry.
if you miss
Not,
3
thank you, guys. That's why I'm asking you.
If you
It's
miss-
supposed to be an automatic forfeiture, but is it?
Well, it says 3 unexcused absences. So if the person calls the chair and says, hey, I won't be there, I think that's generally treated as an excused absence. So you could do that unlimited times. But if you just blow it off and don't call, then it's 3 that you're automatically removed.
And here again, the problem is finding people to serve. Maybe you don't have that problem.
Not so far.
I've had more no's than yeses.
Not so far.
So did you want to give a thought on that particular?
And certainly, if there's anybody out in TV land watching this committee meeting and they want to serve on boards, I'd be happy to consider them.
Hal is putting out the all-call. Please be lighting up 311 and let them know that you want to serve on a committee. Well, just trying to help you, Hal. So when they call in, when you say they call in, who are they calling in to? To the board chair?
Yes.
And the board chair is keeping track of this?
That's
That was part of our discussion, I think, the last time around all the committees about the fact that we really weren't getting information about what the committees were up to, what was going on, how active they were, when they were meeting.
I think with the posting of minutes, which is planned on the website, and taking of minutes will be mandatory. It currently is, but I think it will we'll assign staff people to the boards and commissions.
Right, right.
So the minutes will be done, it will be easy to track who was not there. But,
No, I'm getting the picture, and I really do appreciate the assignment of staff to be committed with these people. I don't mean committed to anything other than doing their jobs. I mean, it's nice to have a line of information, that pipeline, where we were kind of losing that and not getting the information we really needed. Otherwise, why even have the committees? Thank you.
Okay, before I make this statement, this is not in any way a statement about any particular individual or group of individuals, but I would like, first of all, who in the administrator's office is overseeing human relations?
Gordon Criswell.
I really think that committee is important, and it has important work to do. I mean, we all are fresh in our mind of what can happen, and at different times, board members have indicated to me that there is a dysfunctionality with the current board, not being able to field a quorum, not dealing with matters of substance, in general a concern about the progress of the work that they do and their involvement in the issues that are pertinent to their assignment. I guess I'm asking you if you know whether that is in fact true. If not, then I certainly would like Gordon to, discuss that with me and the board. But I think we need to take an examination of that board and elevate it. I don't know that boards really have a ranking, but clearly parks and planning are viewed as important appointments. I think human relations is at that same tier, and it has been underutilized as a tool in this community. I don't know whether it's the result of who we appoint or what they're doing, or if they just can't get enough people to participate, or if that's even in fact true. Again, I'm relying on what two people who I have great confidence in have told me their experience has been.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular commission. I certainly would have Gordon give you a call. That's probably the best way to answer that.
Thank you.
Can I loop us back quickly to see if we've provided direction on that final point? What I'm hearing is that there's a consensus that in those few cases where we think it would arise, we would not boot the appointee off at the expiration of the elected official's term. Does that accurately reflect everyone's opinion?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, they were appointed by a commissioner, and I think they should serve out their commission unless they want to.
If they want to. Now, if they
Yeah.
want to resign, that's certainly an option for them.
Yes, correct. I go along with that.
And I'm assuming that means unless it's already specified in the code, like parks, you want to leave
Correct.
that the same?
Well, that was the
It's
question
open
I
for-
posed.
Which one?
For the boards that specifically say they'll roll over, we have a couple of boards like the planning commission that specifically say they'll roll over. Are we gonna go ahead and amend those to match all the other boards, or do we leave those the same? I think it's just parks and
Just-
planning are the only two that are specific.
I personally, I don't think we ought to change anything that's in place right now. So if those two roll over a couple of months after a new commissioner might be elected, then that's fine.
So unless specifically stated, we'll change it for everything else.
But I don't think we have to have every board come due June after that commissioner's April election, or there is an election.
Pretty close.
Well, I think we're trying to ensure that there's a timely start and stop date and it's consistent.
It's mostly silent, and so if there's a resignation on the board,
This really, I mean, we can recommend whatever, but this is really a special session item, I think. I mean, I appreciate the information, but I know we have other commissioners on those boards that are very strongly opinionated about some of these questions.
Well, I think if we can get through the rest of this, and maybe we can talk about next steps, because I wasn't sure where to go from here. I think
Okay.
whether it's special session or full commission or. Okay, so I think we've got that last question answered. The next point we're going to talk about was developing a standardized application and a recruitment process.
Hal, this is your all call. They're developing the all call for you.
Okay.
And this was one of the things that as we as staff started talking about, how do we do this a little bit better? And again, with the commission liaison kind of leading the way, we want to develop a form and have it online year-round. And we want to be able to direct people, if they have an interest in a board or commission, number one, to be able to look up and see what that board or commission's all about. And number two, put an application together so that when one of your appointments comes due, you don't have anybody, we can hand you the stack of applications to take a look through there.
This would also have the dates of their meeting and everything, so if they really wanted, because it is open, all of these are open to the public, so
Correct.
they could go and be part, even if they aren't on that commission.
That's right.
Okay.
But we think that would be a good resource, for you as a commission to have. We'd keep them, I think we're proposing to maintain the applications for a 2-year period. But again, if somebody has an interest, or if you see someone that is interested in it, you can direct them to the website, or you can direct them to fill out a form, turn it to the commission office, and we'll maintain it. So we think that would be a nice, a good way to continue to engage the public and put people where their interests are. If they have an interest in a specific area, give them the information, and let's see if we can make a connection.
The only disclaimer I would make sure that we made is that because they filled it out, there's no guarantee that they'll be called to serve.
Absolutely.
I mean, because people get disappointed once they put themselves out there to show, a willingness to serve, and then they don't hear anything.
Yeah, and that part of the information will be, are there any vacancies? So if they want to put their name in for something and it's already full, hopefully they'll know that going in.
Thank you.
On the staff support, we've kind of mentioned this a few times, but we've got, for the most part, we had a lot of staff departments that were already providing some support for these boards and committees. I think where we're taking this to the next level is we want agendas and some type of whether it be a summary or some form of minutes to be recorded. And so I think that the staff support, we will have to expand some of our staff support to these boards and committees. A lot of it already existed, which was a good find for us. And last but not least is the role of the clerk's office. I think, again, this is where specifically defined roles and it just weren't in existence at this point. And what we want the clerk to be responsible for is, maintaining all the agendas and minutes from the boards and committee meetings. So the liaison will ensure that each board and commission, their action or their minutes and their agendas will be given to the clerk. And that the clerk will be responsible for posting them to the UG website, similar to what she does now for the standing committees and the regular commission and the planning and zoning. This will just be added to that, so they'll be posted from the clerk's office. And so I think that clearly delineates who's doing what throughout this process, and hopefully, somebody else's lifetime, when they go through this again, it'll be a lot easier to do.
That sounds like a desire.
It's a long-term goal.
And I would say, the clerk's office has been trying to maintain this craziness all this time, and I'm not sure that everybody fully appreciated just how many boards and how crazy that tracking process was until this research was happening. So, Ms. Coppins, thank you for your long-term efforts to try to keep track of all of this and all of our appointments and lack thereof.
Yes.
Yes, I want to tell you thank you too, because I probably was one of the most vociferous critters on your block, asking plenty of questions, wanting to know, what am I supposed to be doing and when? And you're like, good question, and I will find out for you. So thank you very much.
So that's the end of our presentation. I think that we've kind of gotten the feedback that we needed to try to formalize this. And I guess Commissioner Walker, the next steps is what kind of we're looking for in this process. I mean, there's no time frame on it. There's no rush, obviously. But special session's fine. If you want us to bring it back here for a final vote, because we have some cleanup stuff we need to do on this now, we can do that and then take it to full commission.
Well, it got kicked to us from the original meeting, and so I don't know how the rest of everybody feels on this, but we're pretty happy with the direction and everything you've done so far. If you would put something together and shoot it out to us so we can take a look at it and then get any comments back to you, okay? And then I would suggest just if you think there's changes that really need to be met or changed, then just bring it back to us as a finished thing, and then we can send it on to the full commission.
Okay.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Well, I need some clarification.
Okay.
Do you want me to start changing all the ordinances or wait until the full commission
Yeah.
gives
Yeah.
feedback in case there's a difference of opinion with the other commissioners?
Yes, wait until,
Commission.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was asking for the floor from that commissioner, not you. And I didn't mean to interrupt, no, I didn't mean for you to be quiet. You know, I'm gonna tell you, this is one of those things where I think, it's just my opinion, okay? We vote on something and we send it to the full commission to be adopted down in the lobby. There's gonna be a lot of discussion and there's gonna be a lot of disagreement. And I would prefer that whatever we're gonna send, we send it to a work session before we have legal redraft all those ordinances. And there's a lot of work. I really think it's a lot of work, and I got a feeling, I just to call it whatever you want, I got a feeling we're gonna have a lot of debate over who gets appointed when and how they correspond, and, you know, some people think some boards ought to just disappear or be incorporated underneath the umbrella of other boards, and I think the best place to do that is in a work session rather than out in a public meeting where if we wrangle with the other committee members, the other, well, Terrence is not here tonight, and the other four, and then the mayor, and he weighs in. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there isn't that much heartburn on it, but I think after listening to a couple of them, I got a feeling there's some opinions that we're going to have to hear, one place or the other.
I agree with Hal, that this, I've been the recipient of the reverse side, where it came to me after the committee had already made a decision, and I don't want to do that. And if it takes 3-on-3s or a special work session or something like that, so everyone has input, especially on the because some of those committees, the Parks and Rec, those are the planning and zoning, those are huge. You know, and I darn sure don't want to see, like I said before, I don't want to see somebody who's dedicated a couple of years of their time be removed because of an election. And some of them, you know, if you could have like what we did, 4 or 5 different people all at once, you know, so which makes it sometimes better, sometimes worse. So I don't want this to leave this committee without the rest of the commissioners knowing what's going on.
So I will remind this committee that we had a special session on this, and the other commissioners basically told us to deal with it. So now we're here at this committee.
We have dealt with it.
I don't know that they're going to want to go through another special session, and I'm not sure these are all the same concepts that were presented at that special session, and the only point of discussion at that special session was about whether we did the expiration of terms concurrent with the commissioner leaving, or whether we let people hold on. So I think that's still something there could be some debate over. I'm not sure whether it's a debate we want to schedule a special session for, because it's kind of a yes or no sort of deal. Either people are going to be on board with it or they're not going to be on board with it, and we're going to not change that.
All right, so you wanting us to make a motion for them to go forward or not go forward?
Well, I think Commissioner Philbrook's recommendation was that they finalize this report, fill in what blanks they can, come back with the full recommendation and present it to us for final adoption, and that Jody's not gonna do anything to our ordinances until that has happened.
Okay?
In the meantime, what I'm wondering if staff could do is invite any commissioners that are interested to participate in 3-on-3s where you present this draft to them. Some may take you up on it and some may not, but at least then we don't have to sit through another special session that perhaps they're not interested in, but we get all the information out to all the commissioners before that final draft comes to us. So that would be my recommendation, is that staff put out the invitation for 3-on-3s if people are interested in seeing this before it's in final form. Final form will come to us. We'll say yay or nay, and then it'll go on to full commission at that point. Does that sound good?
I can agree to that as long as the other commissioners are briefed on,
Yep.
in 3-on-3s.
Well, and I think what we could do also when it comes back to this committee is allow enough time between the committee meeting and the full commission. We don't have to do the very next one. Like, and this is not time sensitive.
Right.
We could put a couple meetings in between to make sure and get this out and address your concern.
We'd appreciate that.
Well, you say it's not time sensitive, but in a sense it is, because the election season is upon us. People, after the first Tuesday in November, will start making noise for the seats that are coming up. And these need to be, personally, I would like to see these in place before the first of the year so that they're not cast as some kind of political shenanigan on the part of the commission to change all the rules once the filing deadline occurs. Maybe I'm overly sensitive to that, but I lived with that for 25 or 30 years of making sure nothing that had political connotations came up between the filing deadline and the election that looked like it was political in nature. So-
Mr. Connor, so could you kind of give an idea of what kind of a timeline you'd recommend that would come in compliance with his request?
Question.
Go ahead, Joey.
I have, when you say final form, I guess I'd like some clarification on what that is. What you don't have before you that you would like.
Well, I think we were.
So that would help us give the timeline.
Yeah, we want to clarify how the rolling over is going to occur, and then I think we probably want to know how many ordinances we're talking about changing and sort of how that process would work. I think we'd want to have sort of a timeline of how that would work to help us understand, for Commissioner Walker's comment, when we can actually expect for this to be finished, and when we can start to see changes as commissioners in terms of when we're going to be asked for appointments.
My own opinion would be, I would like to see us as a commission either adopt or not adopt whatever we're going to do no later than the second meeting in December.
And
That
I-
would be the time frame.
And I think we could come back to this commission in October, I mean, this standing committee, excuse me, in October with how many ordinances need changing and how the rolling over would work. In fact, I probably would bring a draft of the general ordinance that applies to all the boards and commissions. And so you could see that, and then you could have more discussion, and we would maybe put out to the other commissioners if they want a briefing, or if they want to attend the standing committee meeting to give input. The 3-on-3s, if you're gonna vote on it, you really aren't allowed to discuss much they would just be one-way briefings, from staff, but we could offer both things to them. They could either come, if they want to discuss it, they could come to your meeting, or we could give them a staff briefing.
Yeah, what would be nice is to give them the opportunity for the staff briefing, so that if they hear the briefing and decide they think they have some input, then they could bring it to the standing committee and have that discussion.
Isn't the rule that any commissioner can attend any committee meeting,
Right.
sit at the table and participate, they just don't vote?
Exactly.
So when we have our next meeting, perhaps you notice them, and if they want to be heard on this subject, they should come to that meeting.
Yeah, we can certainly provide them with all the documents that you have right now. And
That would definitely
make
save
sure.
a lot of staff time.
Yes, it would.
Great idea.
So do you have the direction you need from us at this point? We don't need a motion necessarily,
No.
do we?
No, but I think your timeline is well within, we certainly can
We'll
get that done.
focus on the October and November meetings.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Our last item on the agenda is just outcomes, and as you may recall, last month we talked about social services a little bit. Staff was not prepared with the report of the social services that we provide and fund for this meeting. I think Mr. Connor said he thought in October they would be prepared to present that, so.
Yeah,
we will
we're
just-
collecting all that data now, and we fully expect to have, you know, the goals that are currently listed with our current activities around social services, and then we can open up the discussion then.
Great. So unless there are other comments on the outcomes, we will just wait until October to discuss that.
Get somebody wants to start.
Which item would you like to address, ma'am?
C, the one with the border regions and the school district of KCK Community College. I'm Mary Ann Plunder. I live at 1236 Grandview Boulevard.
Marianne,
On-
I'm just not sure what you're looking at.
It says January 13th, 2014, C. You got September and then January.
Oh, are you looking at the outcome summary? Okay.
Okay. The number C was work with the Board of Regents, personnel, and school districts and KCK to improve the process and increase the number of students signed up to use the Senate Bill number 155. When the relationship you all have with the school district, is it possible to include the students that go to Sumner High School that was interested in going but can't go because it's a prep school?
I can probably tell you more about this after the meeting, just one-on-one, but we have had discussions with the Board of Regents about the requirements for that Senate Bill 155 and how those requirements sort of eliminate the possibility, and Sumner's requirements also eliminate the possibility of their participation. So those discussions are taking place on both ends, or have been, but I don't think there's been any resolution on that front.
Okay.
Just for clarification, so then as I understand it, because Sumner is a special school, whatever special that is.
I know they special, but you know, other cities still, the ones, the prep schools, still are invited to go to ABTS, and those kids earn enough credits that they can take that certificate and work during the summer and pay for their own college. So it's got its advantages.
Yeah, and the problem that
And
we're
everybody
seeing-
that goes to Sumner do not go to college.
The problem that we're seeing is that it's not just the Senate bill requirements that are an issue. Sumner's requirements also prevent the students from participating in this program.
Sumner is the one that does it.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
like I said, we're having discussions on both ends, but we have not resolved that issue.
Okay, we'll really try to work hard on that.
All right, we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's nothing else, we're adjourned.
She